The air at Sandy Cay is thick with tension as rival ships drift in uneasy silence, their crews bracing for what could come next. Here, Philippine Coast Guard vessels, outnumbered and outgunned, face off against the larger, more numerous ships of the China Coast Guard, each side unwilling to yield an inch. This tiny sandbar, barely above water and often overlooked on maps, is now the latest flashpoint in the South China Sea, drawing global attention to its strategic significance. The world's eyes are on this standoff, just miles from the Philippine-held Pag-asa Island, as international media broadcast every tense moment to audiences far beyond Asia. For Manila, Sandy Cay is a stand for sovereignty and national pride. For Beijing, it's another step in its sweeping quest for control over these contested waters. Every maneuver, every radio challenge, and every warning blared across the waves risks a miscalculation with consequences that could ripple across the entire region. The crisis didn't erupt overnight. It began with swarms of Chinese maritime militia blocking Filipino fishermen, cutting off livelihoods and raising tempers. Then, China's Coast Guard escalated, shadowing and warning Philippine patrols more aggressively, their ships looming ever closer in a show of force. The Philippines refused to back down, standing firm and determined, setting the stage for today's high-stakes confrontation. The power imbalance is stark. China's forces dwarf the Philippines. But Manila has international law on its side, and growing support from allies like the US, Japan, and Australia, who are watching closely and sending their own ships to the region. This is more than a bilateral dispute. It's a test for the international community and the rules that govern the world's oceans. Can a smaller nation defend its rights against a superpower through law and diplomacy? Or will might once again make right in these contested seas? The answer is being written now, in these contested waters, as each patrol and protest shapes the future of the region. Sandy Cay, sometimes submerged at high tide, has become a symbol of resistance and the enduring struggle for sovereignty. The actions here are calculated moves in a high-stakes geopolitical chess match, where every decision could tip the balance. Each patrol and close pass raises the risk of a devastating miscalculation, a single spark that could ignite a wider conflict. The standoff is a powder keg, and the fuse is burning short, as both sides test each other's resolve. The world is watching to see if the rules-based order can hold, or if force will decide the fate of these waters. The next move could change the region's future, and perhaps the world's. Sandy Cay isn't just a sandbar, it's a strategic outpost, a tiny patch of sand that holds outsized importance in the South China Sea. Its location makes it a flashpoint in a much larger geopolitical contest. Its proximity to Pag-asa Island means whoever controls Sandy Cay threatens the Philippines' hold on its largest Spratly outpost. The Cay acts as a buffer, and losing it could expose Pag-asa to encirclement or blockade. In 2017, Chinese vessels swarmed the area, sparking fears of land reclamation and a permanent Chinese presence just steps from Philippine territory. Control here means controlling the surrounding waters, restricting Philippine access, and isolating Pag-asa. It's a way to project power and limit the movement of rival claimants. China's cabbage strategy wraps targets in layers of ships, tightening its grip and making it nearly impossible for others to approach without risking confrontation. Legally, Sandy Cay falls under Philippine sovereignty, as it's within 12 nautical miles of Pag-asa. This is recognized under international law and by maritime conventions. Any Chinese occupation would violate international law and UNCLOS, the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, which sets the rules for maritime boundaries. Losing Sandy Cay would be more than territorial. It would be a blow to the rules-based order, undermining the authority of international agreements and setting a dangerous precedent. For Manila, holding this sandbar is about defending national dignity, legal rights, and the future of its maritime claims. It's a symbol of sovereignty and resistance. The stakes are far bigger than the sand itself. What happens here could shape the balance of power and the fate of international law in the region for years to come. In 2025, Sandy Cay exploded onto the world stage, drawing the attention of governments, media, and ordinary people across the globe. What was once a little-known patch of sand suddenly became the center of international headlines. Filipino activists landed and raised their flag. a peaceful but bold assertion of sovereignty, determined to make their nation's claim visible to the world. Their actions were a symbol of hope and defiance, echoing the aspirations of many Filipinos. China's response was swift and forceful. Coast Guard ships unleashed high-pressure water cannons on Philippine vessels, sending a clear message that Beijing would not tolerate any challenge to its authority in the region. Videos of the attacks went viral, showing the raw force used to drive Filipinos from their own waters. The shocking images sparked outrage and sympathy, igniting debates on social media and in living rooms worldwide. The world condemned China's actions, with leaders and organizations issuing strong statements against the use of force and the escalation of tensions. The US, Japan, Australia, and the EU demanded restraint and respect for international law, urging all parties to avoid further provocation and to seek peaceful solutions through dialogue. The G7 warned of threats to freedom of navigation, emphasizing the importance of keeping vital sea lanes open for global trade and security. Beijing dismissed criticism, insisting on its indisputable sovereignty over Sandy Cay and accusing other nations of interfering in its internal affairs. Competing narratives flooded the media, fueling a tense information war as each side tried to sway global opinion and justify their actions. The risk of a misstep grew with every encounter, as military analysts warned that even a minor incident could spiral into a larger conflict. Sandy Cay was no longer a local dispute. It had become a global flashpoint, symbolizing the fragile balance of power in the South China Sea and the world's growing anxiety over what might come next. The South China Sea is a global artery, 1/3 of world shipping, trillions in trade, and vital energy resources flow through these waters. Beneath the waves lie vast oil and gas reserves, fiercely contested by regional powers. The sea is also a crucial fishing ground, feeding millions and sustaining coastal economies. China's expansion has depleted stocks and pushed out smaller fishermen. For Beijing, control means projecting power. For the US and allies, it's about keeping sea lanes open. Artificial islands serve as military outposts, raising the stakes. The fight for features like Sandy Cay is about resources, security, and survival. Every move here ripples through global supply chains. The struggle is as much about livelihoods as it is about geopolitics. The Philippines' legal trump card is the 2016 Hague arbitral ruling. The tribunal rejected China's sweeping claims, affirming Manila's rights under UNCLOS. It declared China's 9-line baseless and found Beijing violated Philippine rights by interfering with fishing and exploration. China rejected the ruling, ramping up militarization and ignoring international law. The standoff at Sandy Cay is a test of whether legal victories matter against brute force. Manila's patrols are lawful, China's blockades are not. The world is watching to see if the rules-based order can withstand open defiance. The outcome will shape the future of maritime law. China's playbook is gray zone warfare, coercion without open conflict. The China Coast Guard and maritime militia swarm disputed areas, using water cannons and ramming to intimidate. These forces blur the line between civilian and military, complicating responses. China's Coast Guard is now a heavily armed paramilitary, authorized to use force. The maritime militia, disguised as fishing boats, blocks access and gathers intelligence. On land, China wages an information war, spreading disinformation, shaping narratives, and undermining Philippine resolve. Social media is flooded with Beijing's version of events. It's a battle for control, of territory, and of the truth. The war at Sandy Cay is fought with ships and stories alike. The real victims are Filipino fishermen. For generations, these waters fed their families. Now they're a battleground. Chinese ships chase them away, damage nets, and block access to traditional grounds. Many are forced to risk longer journeys or abandon fishing, plunging communities into poverty. The economic pain ripples through coastal towns. Vendors, boat builders, and families all suffer. Scarborough Shoal's loss in 2012 devastated Masinloc. Now, Pag-asa faces the same fate. For these fishermen, the fight isn't about geopolitics. It's about survival. Their stories are a powerful reminder of what's at stake. Sovereignty here means food on the table and hope for the future. The struggle for the West Philippine Sea is deeply personal. President Marcos Jr. has shifted tactics, embracing assertive transparency. Instead of quiet diplomacy, the Philippines now documents and publicizes every Chinese incursion. Coast Guard crews record harassment, sharing videos that expose Beijing's actions to the world. This strategy seizes the narrative, making it harder for China to deny aggression. Global opinion is shifting as undeniable evidence circulates. Manila is also strengthening alliances, expanding U.S. military access, holding joint patrols, and building ties with Japan, Australia, and Europe. Military modernization is underway, focusing on asymmetric defense missiles, patrol vessels, and surveillance. The goal isn't to match China ship for ship, but to raise the cost of aggression. Assertive transparency, alliances, and modernization form a three-pronged defense. The Philippines is proving that strength isn't just about size. The standoff at Sandy Cay is a high-stakes gamble. One wrong move, a collision, an injury, a misjudged maneuver, could trigger a crisis. The U.S.-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty means any attack could draw in American forces, risking a superpower confrontation. China could escalate with a blockade or land reclamation, daring Manila and Washington to respond. Economic coercion is another weapon. China could restrict trade or tourism to punish defiance. Both sides face immense pressure not to back down. The challenge is finding a diplomatic off-ramp before tensions explode. The world watches, hoping for restraint. The future of the Indo-Pacific may hinge on what happens at this tiny sandbar. The next chapter is unwritten, and the stakes couldn't be higher.